Job hopped for a salary increase and previous job opened a rec for my previous position with salary I was asking for. Just as the title says. I'm feeling frustrated and disappointed. I was with the company for 4 years and wanted to be promoted. Was constantly told I exceeded expectations and had leadership potential but was continually low-balled, especially in comparison to salaries in my region with my experience. Now old company is giving someone else the opportunity. Why? Yes, they found out the hard way what that role was worth. Now it's vacant. Enjoy your new job. Bingo. You left because they wouldn't pay you what you deserved. But they wouldn't pay you what you deserved because you weren't leaving. You left. Now it's time for them to either find someone else who is willing to be underpaid to do the same work, or pony up and pay a proper wage for the role. Also, recruiting often gets the money they need to recruit. When it comes to department budgets, the goal is always to keep them as small as possible. There's going to be money to hire people. When it comes to raises, companies pinch pennies. Yep, recruiting budgets greater than retention budgets. Also don't assume that they will pay someone that exact amount just because it's on the job listing. They will probably make an offer to someone for less and say that's just top of the job title range. Many roles I have seen have base pay ranges. First call find out the target is on the low end for total comp. As in base pay target is the bottom. I had one role I screened for and they had already reduced the listed pay in the posting, like I would not have applied at the new rate. Got screened out since I listed desired pay within the old range. I got a package listing. And recruiting lowballed me in the negotiation phase. And lied about the pay band. My first day, my boss had to tell me they couldn't pay me the negotiated pay. And I had to sign a new employment contract. The internal recruiter negotiated me below the pay band for the role. So I got a $2,000 raise on my first day. This is exactly why. Don't feel bad unless leadership was changed. It will be the same issue come a few years. I honestly believe things happen for a reason. Don't look back, just forward. It's not even the hard way. This is how the job market works. 1. Businesses do not have perfect information into what the market rate of salaries are. And one of the indicators they rely on is attrition. To be in line with market rates, they generally need to lose a certain percentage of people over pay. This isn't personal. It is feedback. It's how businesses learn market rate. 2. Employees best achieve market rate for their skills by job hopping every few years. These two facts are not at odds with each other at all, aren't personal, and fall very squarely in the area of how the world works. Ideally, businesses would proactively look at the market rate and give raises where appropriate, especially when key individuals start signaling they aren't satisfied with their pay. But yes, I've seen this happen. My wife was able to negotiate a raise from $90,000 to $115,000 by printing out various reports on market rate salaries for her position and demanding a raise to match it. She still ended up leaving after 6 months though, because a recruiter from a better company called her and offered an above market rate pay though. In the past, I left a company and told them what the new company what I went to was going to pay me. A week later, the company gave everyone huge raises to prevent further bleeding. This would cost them more. Some people never, or nearly never, ask for raises. Putting pay increases proactively is very, very expensive. I am not saying this is right. I am saying this is how things work. The proactive raisers must compete against companies who don't. Again, not defending it, just explaining the inherent logic to people in ops shoes who are confused or downthread who are angry. People understand that companies don't want to pay money they don't have to. What they're saying is that it is myopic and costs companies money in the long term when they consistently deny market rate raises. Not even proactively give them. It's also myopic and inefficient if the sole calculation is salary and training. Productivity and morale are not taken into consideration. I've worked at places so stingy that they let top talent go over relatively meager salary increase requests only to then lose very important clients who were serviced by that talent. Imagine losing $1 million account because you wouldn't give a guy $5K more who was worth at least $25K more. Describe your efficient system. Make me. Tears of joy. Seriously though. I don't need to because it's irrelevant to my point. I don't need to describe a perfect system to criticize a bad one. This. Or they didn't want them around anymore and rather pay that money for fresh blood. I suspect they tried to hire at the previous salary first and got crickets. Shiny penny syndrome and a game of chicken when it comes to who will walk first. You walked. Don't look back. I'd be petty and apply. Tears of joy. That's not petty. They may even hire you back lol. Unless the new place is a dumpster fire. It would be hilarious to interview. Get an offer. And then decline it. Why would that be hilarious? I've declined 4 offers in my career. 2 because they didn't offer enough. 1 because they were just too slow. 1 because I just didn't like the feeling I got. Also one time I accepted an offer but then almost immediately quit because another place I was interviewing at offered me $30K more after I initially turned them down. Were any of these places you had just left? One time when I declined an offer because it was too low. The CEO of the startup I applied to spent 10 minutes calling me an idiot on the phone and telling me how I'm going to be sorry for wasting their time and that this will be the dumbest decision I ever make in my life. 2 years later they sold the company to a big publicly traded app company most people have on their phones right now. I had friends that had been with the company since very early days. I asked how much they got paid out for their equity stake in the company. They had been there 6 years each. Total that each got? About $30K. Lol. The founders ran off with tens of millions. Oh, also after that acquisition everyone got fired because they got bought just for their IP and customer base. So underpaid. Shit equity. And had to be forced to find a new job at liquidity event. I'm pretty happy I said no. Greater than 10 minutes calling me an idiot. I had a similar experience except it wasn't that long of a conversation. My notes say you turned down the offer because of a compensation issue? Quote, yeah, I was expecting around dollar market rate. Dollar market rate? Are you insane? No one pays that. I literally have 2 offers more than dollar market rate. And here is a Google link on average salary for the position you have open. No hard feelings, but it sounds like you're not ready to actually have a senior network engineer on staff. Maybe you can try to work with a smaller MSP who provides network services. Okay, whatever. Why did you stay on the line for 10 minutes with that jackass? Just tell them I'm not interested. Goodbye and hang up. Or just hang up the moment they start in and block their number. I'd be pettier. Apply, accept interview, and ghost them. Ghosting then just messes with the recruiter. No one else at the company will notice. Getting them to make an offer and then rejecting will get more attention. Budgets for new hires are always more than retaining. Companies know it's a pain in the ass to go through the interview process to find a new job. So they milk you for what they can and give you juiced enough for you to stick around. I've been a boomerang employee, and when I went back to that company I had a much higher title and pay than my peers who had just stayed. I even became a tech lead on a team with one of them. Use that anger to fuel your drive rather than being bitter. The irony is that it's a massive waste of money for the company too. It would be fun to just hand your boss a cost-benefit analysis of just giving you a raise versus hiring someone new. The problem is the numbers game. The company just is not underpaying one person. It may be 50. It may be 100. If 5 to 10% leave every year, then the company still comes out way ahead by holding down pay for existing people. This is why employers frequently do this. It is also why counteroffers are so common. You are completely correct. It, sadly, makes sense from a numbers perspective. Who cares? Move on with your life and your new salary. Of course op cares. It takes effort to job hop. Resumes. Interviews. Meet new PPL. Learn the job. And also consider how much you enjoyed the job that you left versus the ones you job hopped to. I can imagine it'd be frustrating. Depending on where you were at now and how happy you really were that you'd moved. If the company did me dirty like that, I would be glad to be gone. Me too. But doesn't mean I wouldn't be pissed about it. You get over it quickly. You get no benefit from stewing. I care and we all should care. Enough to punish anyone who does this. It seems like losing a long-term, assumed good employee and having to retrain a new employee and still pay the higher wage is punishment in itself. Harboring resentment isn't going to do anyone any good. Just move on with the higher salary and know that reality punished the company with lost productivity and increased training costs as well as increased turnover. It isn't punishment enough because they still do it. Plus they likely feel those costs are justified. Just move TF on. Op has the salary they wanted. Previous employer has to train a new employee and still pay what they would have to pay to retain them. When two bodies can't come to terms, whether professional or personal, it's best both parties move TF on. Harboring resentment and or dwelling on the past just leads to misery. Oh, shut the fuck up. On what planet is it punishment? They seem to never care. If it was that important to them, they would have paid the old guy this wage. I've worked long enough to see this idea that turnover is bad has to be a fake idea because turnover is high everywhere. In fact, it seems to be built in now so they don't have to worry about life or employees and don't have to cycle them out with quite as many layoffs. Yeah, technically you'd think it would be an issue if the goal of the compa NY was a quality product, but it's not. It's profits for shareholders. So you're making an assumption that actually hasn't been a business practice since at least the 90s. High turnover keeps labor costs low. Labor costs are one of the main targets for cuts to increase profits. It's really quite simple. There's none of this idealistic business logic they teach you in school or wherever this crap comes from. What isn't being mentioned here either is that while this guy says the new listing is higher than his old wage, with costs adjusted, inflation, etc., the new wage is probably less than they were paying him all told. I am so tired of you pithy little babies just acting like nothing matters and you need to move on or else. Worst of worst things. You might have a bad feeling. Goddamn dude, what happened to your fucking spine? The idea that misery is some kind of internal force that comes from within. Feeling insulted when you have been insulted or outraged by injustice, for example. And OT externally applied is one of the most toxic ideas that exist in this world, the most spineless. Conflict avoidant. Insincere nice guy cringing wieners are always pushing it. It is absolutely contemptuous that all these well-off people believe that being happy is some kind of choice people make. I am fucking tired of it. You get fucked over and you're supposed to just smile and pretend like it's no biggie. That's not virtue. That's subservience. Real bike cuck hours. My advice to op is to use this experience to learn that these companies are absolutely, and have always been and always will, try to get as much out of you for as little as possible. They have no loyalty or gratitude and will get rid of you to push the beans a little further into the positive column. You don't have to be bitter or resentful about any of this, I guess. But the idea that you have to pretend like you weren't taken advantage of is some of the worst advice anyone could give another. In fact, it sounds like somebody in management who knows full well they do it to other people every day. That's a lot of words for someone simultaneously telling somebody to shut the fuck up and also say absolutely nothing that everybody didn't already know. You've offered no advice here. Nothing except, herp derp, all companies suck and aren't loyal. Congratulations, Lord of the Edge. You just caught up with the rest of the working world. So I guess after that useless rant, the actual advice here for op remains unchanged. Move on and enjoy the better salary. Summary. https://y.yarn.co/6b67-5d2a-4c2d-b365-9f47435b37e2_text.gif closing parenthesis. A book that starts with, "Oh shut the fuck up," was never meant to be read. I suppose this is a good place for meaningless rants. It is Reddit after all. You need anger counseling. It is also obvious why corporations treat you poorly. Playing the victim probably didn't go over very well with your last HR representative either. Leaving your current job for higher pay and maintaining victim mentality at the same time? That is a drama queen achievement in itself. Keep crying into your soup. Maybe tea hat will help? Absolutely not. You can do nothing about it except drive yourself crazy and make yourself miserable. Grow up and move on. Not with that attitude. We can name and shame. Don't business with them. Lobby the government to pass laws that require businesses to give raises higher than what they offer new hires. I as pro-worker as it is possible to be. And I still think this is silly. There's roughly no chance this bill could be implemented in such a way as to be helpful. And much less chance of it passing through Congress. How about we just focus on universal healthcare? God, this dude is messed up in the head. Make laws that I have to pay people less than what I want to. LMAO, imagine advocating for government regulation of your workplace. What a fucking commie. The commies in France have great pro-worker laws. All the bosses complain about it, but it's good to be a worker in France. What about fill their job posting with AI-generated ideal candidates? I am sure you do 50% of what you're suggesting here face with rolling eyes. We should be naming and shaming companies. I don't know why we don't. You can't think of any reason people don't burn their bridges? They don't have to reveal their name. I hate to break it to you, but in the vast majority of cases, naming and shaming is useless here. There's no unified employee network. That spot will be filled by someone that needs to pay the bills. All this company did was not give someone a raise and raise their salary for the position. That's practically angel status next to tons of publicly shamed companies that commit literal crimes against their employees yet manage to stay successful and fully staffed. All naming and sham. Ing does here is tell people there's a job opening. Punish anyone who does this? Either op didn't ask for a raise in a productive manner, i.e. putting a pitch together and threatening to quit if they didn't. Or they didn't think op was worth the pay increase. Or they realize they messed up and changed their mind. Either of the scenarios are perfectly fine. Get punishing then, champ. Take that same advice for your sad GM post. Lol, maybe if you had more career experience you'd understand and appreciate it, kiddo. It drives me nuts, and corporate systems just make the issue worse. I once had a team member. Started before me. I didn't set their shit pay. Who was grossly underpaid. Solid 40% under market. Our team was doing great. Sales. So super easy to demonstrate. And they were a top performer. I knew my numbers would be screwed if they left. I put in a request to increase their pay to the industry norm and align to the other sales staff who were performing at a similar level. It was denied as the max increase I was allowed to give was 10%. Ridiculous. Ended up costing the business literally hundreds of thousands in lost sales when they left. I wrote them a glowing reference and had no hard feelings. Guess what salary we paid their replacement, who I then had to train and wait 6 months before they started hitting quota? Happens all the time. They hope you'll stay for less, but when you don't, they pay what the market dictates. The company was using the hassle of leaving as a barrier to pay you the lowest possible amount of money they could get away with. Which is also why they are offering the salary you wanted to a new hire. They need to pay enough to attract someone who probably already has a job elsewhere. This is why if you want to keep moving up in salary and position, you have to change jobs every 2 to 3 years. 2 basic schools of employee management in the U.S. 1. Pay the employees the least amount possible. To accomplish the needed tasks. Probably 66% of companies. And 2. Pay the employees enough that they wish to stay with and engaged in your company. Probably 33% of companies. Or another way to say this. 1. The Walmart, Amazon method of employee management. And 2. The Costco method of employee management. Job hopping moves you up in pay, and I always lie and say I'm making $2 minus 3 more an hour than I am. Then say please don't contact them. They like to walk people out when they hear they are looking for new employment. If they match it, you got a raise. If they offer a bit under, you got a raise. Main thing is to keep pay you claim realistic to the position though. For hourly jobs least, one thing tends to hold true among most: if you don't get your money at the door, it will be a long time coming. Just move on. Stop dwelling on the past. This is an old story that serves as good advice for anyone new to the job world. Companies always value new people over existing people. Leaving is the only way to prove your worth to them. I have used this to my advantage by returning to a job in a higher position with more respect. You did all employees a service, thank you. This is what drives wage growth. You should glass door them. Hiring budgets are always higher than retention budgets. It's one of the great examples of corporate stupidity. Not uncommon. Heck, in a year or 2 you can probably get hired back in with the promotion you wanted. Management, in my experience in the 30+ years, is focused on hiring versus retaining. Without pensions, there's no reason to have company loyalty. Bounce around and earn more money. You're gonna trip if you keep looking behind you. Move on and enjoy the new company that values your work more. This confirms you were correct in your salary expectations, demands. This also confirms that they were jerks for not meeting your conditions for continued employment. They now have to pay someone that money that does not have your experience and familiarity with their business. Had that happened to me, but when I left they posted my old job for $40K more than they were paying me. Still less than what I am getting paid at my new job though, so F them lol. It's also been a year and they still haven't filled my old spot, so odds are it's just fake to make the people left. 'Cause companies are douchebags. Did you ever ask for a promotion or raise? Or did you stand around waiting for someone to give it to you? It's a business, not a charity. If you don't ask, they aren't going to spend more money. Yes. Boss and I had several conversations on next career steps, etc. I wasn't expecting anyone to read my mind. Old place used your feedback about salary to get a raise approved for next candidate. A lot of places are only going to pay that premium for external candidates. This is a helpful explanation. Thank you. Yep. Similar thing happened at my old job. They asked why I was leaving and I told them I was getting a 20% salary increase at the new job. My boss straight up said, "Well, I can't offer to match that now, but I'll put it in your exit interview notes and hopefully it can help increase the pay for the next candidate." Wow, that's bold. Flushed. I'm feeling like they weren't considering you at the old place. Probably best to move on. Always been this way in my 40-year working career. Definitely nothing new and not worth your worries. Always try to leave on excellent terms. You might be back. Sometimes you aren't as valuable to your employer as you think you are. Just move on and be happy with what you have. Looking in the rear view does nothing for you. I've seen companies offer so little for very complex positions. They don't get filled. They do market research and move up to FMV. This almost always happens. If you stay at a job for a while, you almost always are paid less than a new hire because raises seldom keep pace with labor markets. Ironically, you will be paid less even though you have more experience. This is why you should never stay in the same job for long. They didn't think you were worth the money, but they think the role is. Most of the time people have to jump companies to achieve nice boosts in salary. I advise every 2 years. Once you're at one company you are in a pecking order and you're also typecast. We can't pay Joe more than Hillary, kind of bullshit. They weren't unwilling to pay XX for your position. They were just unwilling to pay you *XX for your position. For future reference, it's a great negotiating strategy to get a job offer. Bring it to your current employer and ask if they are willing to match or beat it to keep you. Showing that you're worth the money helps companies discern your worth themselves, rather than just continuing 3% raises. If they would have given you the raise, everyone would ask for a raise. They would rather lose you and hire someone new for a higher price than tell all their employees they will give raises. Yeah, they lost you for that same amount, but it keeps all the other employees loyal. Who gives a shit what your old job does? It also has to do the decreasing value of money over the time. Obviously $100 few years back value weren't the same thing for now. But they did you dirty. I'm so sorry, you must have been hurt for that despite you spent time there for 4 years. Just because they are advertising for this higher number doesn't mean they are going to pay it. Hard to say with no context, but they could use that to draw someone who has little experience to show where they could possibly get to. Not saying it is right, but I have seen this happen. Move on. Just move on and live your life. They lured the salary as the one you wanted. But no doubt the recruiter will say it was a mistake or that the company does not pay the higher end of the range. You're good. My brother in Christ, they are not. This only bothers you because you think logic and reason apply. Many bosses are just pathetic little weenies who want to feel power. You ask for more money and they're going to try to use, "we'll show you who's in charge" attitude. The fact that now they have to spend more money on hiring and training won't enter their head, because they are just plain too stupid to understand anyway. The assumptions in this comment are unreal. Sadly, it's not assumption. It's statistics as well as experience. It's now pretty well documented that most corporations at least are run by psychopaths at the top and spineless middle managers. Sociologists write studies on it, and I've seen it myself too many times. Also, in part due to this is the other well-documented phenomenon that to get the raise you deserve, you have to change jobs. Again, statistics on my side here. Surely you can easily produce them then. You're not wrong in many cases. But also consider this. To open positions or get raises, it is an uphill battle as a manager. You have to go against senior directors and execs and justify the need and why it should be prioritized above other concerns and competing similar requests from other departments. Everybody wants to up their headcount even if they are already good. Those execs themselves have to go to the finance team and make the case also. I'm actually dealing with this issue now. I have 22 direct reports and TL cover the scale. With the quality they want, I need 30 total reports. Like I have math and shit to prove this. The issue is before I got here, other shoddy managers just didn't give a fuck and didn't ask staff for 2 years. So now I have to explain why I'm asking for this when no one else did. In the meantime, the business gotta run, so I put in overtime and ask people to float around. And they hate that shit. They also have no idea the work I and my boss Putting in the background to up the staffing. Some of them take it personally, but it is what it is. Before I came here, none of the managers gave a fuck about them. If I leave, my replacement probably won't care either. And it benefits me in no way to just up and leave. Although I could. It's better for everyone, including my ambitions and personal growth, if I just handle this shit effectively. There. Employees and execs. Personal opinions be damned. Greater than you're not wrong in many cases, but also consider this. He's deeply wrong. Dude. Get the message. There's a hint there. Not hard to decipher. Time to put in a job application, accept the interview, and then no show. You should apply, agree to interview, and ghost. Because employers are like ex-girlfriends. The moment you dump them for someone categorically better, they have no move on the board but to make changes if they have any measurable intelligence. Reapply if only as a, I see you cheap motherfuckers. Ha. I've considered it. This is the era of job hopping. You hopped. You got a raise. Do it again in a year or two. If they were not competitive with dollar, they probably realized they couldn't find anyone with the same level of expertise to fill your shoes for less. I see these things happen when someone promises they can upgrade the position. Really, they aren't. It's just a hiring manager making themselves look better. No point in looking back. It is in a company's interest to ignore trends indicating a rise in the market rate for a role, as long as it's both easily replaceable and in their favor. It is in people's interest to constantly know what they can be paid for the thing they do well. Usually, the employee bears the onus of forcing any kind of change upward in salary. Because why would I pay you more if you're gonna keep doing it for less? If your job is worth $70,000 per year on the market, and you currently make $50,000 per year, and I can reliably find someone, you or someone else, who can do the job when you leave, shouldn't I just let you keep on doing the job at $50,000 for as long as you are willing? If you do it for a year, I spend $120,000 over the course of 2 years. Instead of $140,000. If you do it for 2 years, I spend $170,000 over 3 years instead of $210,000. I have now saved $40,000 in cost for easily replaceable work because someone was happy working here. Perhaps for good reasons. Perhaps because of inertia. Perhaps because of stupidity or ignorance. Also, with employees, there's the old adage that when they tell you they're gone, let them go. Do not save them or counter. Once their foot is out the door, it's not coming back in. You might get 6 to 12 months, but you can't unmake a baby and you can't unscrew the pooch. Whatever got them there can't be undone with a raise. So bite the bullet, find their replacement, and move on. Sounds like a company that didn't care about you anyway. And perhaps you were that person for the person that vacated your new job. Focus the attention on the new job. It's always internal politics. Someone didn't like you, that's that. No, get over it. Ain't that how it always works? Those bastards. Try to put it behind you. Enjoy and move on with your new job, company. This is like getting a new girlfriend, then you get mad because your old GF started working out and got in shape. When you complained about it before breaking up, be happy that in the end you were right and they have to pay the higher wage. Name and shame them. They need to see consequences or it will continue to get worse. Either they figured out that is the pay required to fill your old job, or they are dangling a carrot for new applicants that they don't plan to fulfill. Last time I gave a 2-week notice. They let me go on the spot, then tried to deny my unemployment claim. Never again. Because they are horrible managers. They refused to give you the raise you deserved because they assumed you would continue to work for them for less than you deserved. Sad truth is most companies have a larger budget for hiring new employees than retaining current good employees. Often companies don't promote employees that are great at their job for the sole fact that then they need to find two people to do what the one person was doing. Hopefully they get someone that absolutely botches the job, be it the higher wage. I am sure they are already regretting the decision to not give you that raise. Stupid pride is all that is. Someone at your company didn't want to give in to your request for a raise and foolishly stood firm. Once the position was open, they aren't giving in to anyone by posting a fair salary for it. And they can tell themselves that the new person deserves it, and tell themselves you were greedy, even if that's all just BS. If you are already an employee, it is in the company's best interest to pay you the least amount possible based on your starting salary. That amount will not have kept up with market rates. By leaving, you force them to adjust the salary to the going market rate. Why? Because they have to. That's how jobs work. They're never gonna get new staff for the salary they hired you at 4 years ago. It's always like this. You have a new job with the pay you wanted. Time to move on. That's life. You were taken for granted by the company and eventually left. Since you left, they have not had success finding a viable replacement at the same salary that they previously paid you. Now they are offering the salary that you had asked for, which is probably market rate or close to it, for the position, hoping to find someone of your caliber to do the job. Basically they lost. They are in deep regret that they did not simply give you the raise that you deserved in the first place so that they see old retain you. Instead they now face paying the same money they would have paid you to someone lacking your institutional knowledge and experience, i.e. they are starting from scratch. Go ahead and apply. Can you imagine tears of joy? Ouch, this really sucks. I'd be frustrated too if something like this happened to me. Skeptical smiley face. You could have been hired in the lowball range when you first got there. And as a result, HR was limited to giving you the increases you probably deserved. The US dollar is worth less now. They realized when you left they should have paid you more. That is all. That's how you know you were working for a shitbag. This is just how it goes. Corporate logic is it's cheaper to hire your replacement for the salary you wanted or even higher than it is to just give you the salary you wanted and have to deal with the fallout of all your teammates also wanting a decent pay rise as well because they just gave you one. They fucked around and found out. The only way they can get a less than your name greater than is to pay what you asked. Quite intelligent of them actually. I mean, undervaluing you was dumb, but at least they learned from it. Sometimes the only way up is to get out, as I have learned over time. What's interesting is that not only do they have to pay more, but retooling and overhead costs are increased. But hey, that's business as usual. I would be curious to see how a CFO would justify this. Letting a good employee walk out the door, only to hire their replacement at equal or higher cost than the requested increase. Plus onboarding costs, training, etc. I have to wonder if there must be a rationale, as almost all companies behave this way. Maybe they think it is worth losing one employee, or however many, in exchange for not opening the floodgates and having everyone in the company demand a raise. I never in my life got a cent raise without switching jobs, or otherwise having a documented offer. Except once when I was promoted. Think of this as a service you did to the next person who takes the job. The reason they will not be underpaid is because you walked. You made a small corner of the world a better place. It's no longer your problem. It's called churn, and it happens all the time for a myriad of reasons. In the next 5 years, your old position will probably be filled 2 times. The employee they hire to replace you will want more money, and they will come up with excuses for why they can't pay that rate either. Take it as an acknowledgement of your worth, and put it in your rear-view mirror. Apply for the position. As expected, they did this to me after my IT manager quit and I was handed his duties. I asked for a competitive wage for the extra work and they lowballed me. I quit, and of course the new wage they offered was even higher than what I asked for. Companies suck, so keep loyalty to yourself and only yourself. They thought they'd try you and failed. You made the right move. Probably better to get away from that company. Be sure to leave a nice Glassdoor.com review. Do not feel bad. All this is FAFO. They may even try to bait and switch salary for the applicants. This is proof you were right. Unfortunately, that's how it goes. You left for more reasons than just money, so move on and enjoy your new gig. That's the rule. Loyalty is always penalized. You've been there for 4 years. If you stayed there 2 years and change a role again, you would be ahead even further. Why do you care? You are in a new place. Screw them. Move on. Reapply and then ask for even more. It's been 2 weeks at my new job. Probably not the best idea, haha. Welcome to everyone's experience ever. Just forget about it and concentrate on your new goals. The only way to get a pay increase is to switch jobs. It's the way management is set up. And it will never change, because otherwise it will show how much management actually does. You would have never got that salary. Sometimes hopping is the only way to increase. Management can be really weird. Especially in big core. Lol, apply for it. Rolling on the floor laughing, rolling on the floor laughing. Hiring budgets often exceed retention budgets. And far too often, once someone leaves, they find out the hard way that it would have been cheaper to keep them. Because a new person needs training and transition time. I switched jobs in December because they would not pay or title me for the job I was actually doing. Now I have the pay, title, and kick-ass retirement. I find petty pleasure in the fact that my old position remains open and the one person they thought was going to start wound up declining due to salary, email, and offer to do it for asking plus $10,000. You clearly didn't exceed expectations and they were telling you things to keep you around. Because companies budget 2 to 4% salary increase for existing staff, whereas they have to budget 20 to 30% for hire someone. One of the best advice I was given is, if you want to get ahead in corporate America, get around. Because they need to attract someone to take the job and they couldn't get someone for your salary. You were already there, so they didn't see the need to pay you more. Am I the only one that doesn't see job hopping as a problem? I leave jobs at the slightest inconvenience. This is common. They made a bet that you wouldn't leave. If they won the bet, then they get to keep your services for a low wage. If they lose the bet, they have to pay somebody else what you had asked for anyway. The only downside is the effort to recruit somebody if you quit. Overall, it is a decent bet for them to not give you a raise. Don't look back. If they offer you the old job at your requested salary, highball them comfortably from your new job. A company I worked for did that while I was still working there. We had so much work we needed to hire another person for the same role I was in. Out of curiosity, I checked Indeed for the role and saw they posted the salary range for the position, and it was $20K, $50K more than they were paying me. I asked for a $20K bump. They said no. I quit and took a job making $35K more. I left a company after wearing 100 hats and managing 2 departments for 2 business units. Entirely different companies essentially. I asked for a raise and got a no multiple times. I left and they gave promotions to 2 people to take over my workload at my same pay as me. For each person, lol. That company was always a shithole to work at. Toxicity like I've never experienced before. They got you for a good deal. When employed, you should negotiate a salary you can get by fully without complaining and feeling like you need to move or get a new job by. I just negotiated salary with a new company. I didn't get the salary I wanted, but I got more than the initially offered. A potential issue that can occur is that you lowball your salary. Work 4 years and build them something they can't maintain at your salary, so the next guy gets more. You have to charge market price. Because the position is worth that money and they are assholes. Been there. It's not unusual and not to be taken personally. It seems to be the way things are. Apply for it if you want to go back, but I wouldn't. It's been literally 3 weeks since I left. Just seems silly. Apply for the new position and ask for even more than they are offering. This is how it works. It seems messed up, but after 30 years or so of this, you might come to accept it.